Evening. Now, I don't live in the UK anymore. I was completely sick of the place. So I moved overseas and I now live in the Netherlands and I work in Germany. But I obviously keep my eye on what's going over there. And this whole thing about the corruption and, the politicians claiming expenses that they're not entitled to. I mean, this has just kind of brought to a head how I've been feeling about the government in the UK for the past, decade basically. Well, I would say since the Iraq War, that was when I really started to become disillusioned with the Labour Party and with politics in general. Because I actually voted for the Labour Party in 1997. So I have to admit that I was partly responsible for bringing Tony Blair to power. I mean, I was young. It was the first time that I'd voted. And, I kind of bought into the propaganda, really, that Labour with this kind of fresh face. They seemed like the social alternative to what had come before, which was the Tories, and I was opposed to kind of the right-wing political viewpoint, and I just thought Labour would improve things, for the people, that they cared for the people. And what happened, 5 years after that, we saw the Iraq War, which, as I say, to me, just completely shattered my illusions of democracy and shattered my faith in the Labour Party and in politics in general. I just couldn't believe that the party that was supposed to care about the people was engaging in an imperial war. It was obviously an imperial war, and they were responsible for, in my eyes, murdering innocent people, innocent women and children, tens of thousands of them, hundreds of thousands even. I just could not believe that they were doing that. And what was noticeable to me was the absolute lack of any kind of influence that the people had on that decision. Because I was out on the streets several times during the Iraq War. I remember the day the Iraq War kicked off, and I was in Bristol city centre, and there were lots and lots of people out, and this protest went on all day, and it was all around the city centre. It ended up, late at night, and there were a big group of us went up to the council building, and we actually got charged by the police. I mean, physically charged by the police. We got herded down onto this bridge, and we got kept on this bridge. And I was one of the last off that bridge. I just remember that night, so well, because I was just so angry, and I was lucky I didn't get arrested, to be honest, because I was not too pleased with the police that night. And I just could not believe that the Iraq War happened and that the Labour Party was responsible for it. And it's, I felt just so ashamed of that ever since, really. And that was the first real time that I started to question, do we live in a democracy? Because so many people were against that war. I don't know the exact figures, but there was a good percentage of the British people against that war, and they had absolutely no say in it, and the people who were dissenting had absolutely, no influence on what happened. Is that democracy? And then, of course, we have Gordon Brown, who's been Prime Minister for a couple of years now, I think, and he was actually unelected. I mean, no one chose for him to be the Prime Minister. He was, the people did not have a say in that. Is that democracy? I don't think so. And we've got a government who have basically admitted that they were, responsible for the financial system, for the economic situation that we're in, and they've got away with that as well. And now there's all of this stuff coming out about the corruption of the politicians. It's just one thing after another. It's just like, how much are we going to let these people get away with? Because to me it seems that they can just do what they want, and they're just completely unaccountable to the people at all. I mean, look at everything they've done since they've been in power, since '97. It's just completely outrageous. And now I believe in peace, and I'm against violence, and so I wouldn't advocate any kind of violent, revolution. But even if I did advocate that, I don't think people would do it, because I really just don't know what it's going to take for the people to kind of rise up and just say, we're not going to take this anymore. I just really don't see, after everything that's happened, what would do that. And it kind of just infuriates me, really. And as I say, I believe in peace. So the only way we can do this is by peaceful means. And I mean, we can just keep trying to spread the information, and we can keep trying to, get politically involved. That's all we can do, really, without using violence. And I know that there are some people who believe in violence, and at times I've thought, I've been sympathetic to that view, because sometimes it seems like the peaceful way just isn't having any effect. But I do believe that we have to keep to the peaceful path, because as many people have pointed out, as soon as violence is used, that's when the powers that be and the authorities will start cracking down, and it's just another excuse for tyranny, basically. So we do need to stay peaceful, but the dissension has to be on a much wider scale, and that's why it's down to each and every one of you. And this doesn't just go for the UK, this just goes for, certainly the US and many other Western countries as well, supposed democracies. This goes for everyone in that country and everyone in those countries now. It's down to every individual one of you to spread the information and to get politically active. And just to say, I'm not going to take this anymore. Of course, the famous quote from Network, but it's just so apt, really. And to the people in the UK, I mean, you've just got to start making your voice heard, really. And I would say I hope we soon see the end of New Labour. But I mean, we know how the left-right paradigm works, and what's going to be the alternative? The Conservatives are going to get in, and are they going to be any better? Don't really think so, because they're controlled by the same corporations and by the same bankers. So it can seem a little bit hopeless, and I don't want to end on a down note, really. So just keep plugging away, spreading the information, speaking up, dissenting, refusing, resisting, and saying no to corruption, tyranny, and just downright evil politicians. That's it for tonight. Have a good weekend.